Welcome to another session of Leverage Live. This is Digvijay Gagneja here. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Leverage Edu. And today's topic is around common mistakes that students make while preparing to study abroad. Welcome to this session. Super excited about this particular session because after having counseled thousands of students at Leverage Edu and personally having counseled hundreds of students, I realized a lot of common mistakes that students make, and hence this session will be very, very relevant for all of you out there who are looking to go study abroad and are wondering, what is the most optimized and best way of getting to prep for it and going ahead, getting to your dream university, right? So yeah, today's session is about all about the common mistakes that students make and what to watch out for, right? So I'll just wait for a few more students to join in to the live session, and then we will get started. Our viewers who are already live, would request you all to kindly keep putting in your questions in the chat bot, and I will be happy to answer those questions as we keep going through the session, right? So cool. I think we have enough students who are in. Let's get started. So folks, I think what are the common mistakes that students make while going to study abroad, right? So let me start with the first big topic around research, right? So many students apply to many countries and many universities, right? I mean, of course, there is a certain balance, but I find students who applied to 5 universities in the US, 3 universities in Canada, 5 universities in UK, a couple in Australia as well. And basically are going about it in a way wherein they feel like they will collect all the offers and then they will figure out where to go, right? And that should be the other way around, right? So I always encourage my students to think about and do a lot of research about which country they want to go to and what are their reasons for that, right? So it's very, very important to narrow that part down first, right? And it will also ensure that when you make these decisions upfront, eventually for you to make the final decision of which university and country you want to go to, it becomes a lot more easier, right? Hence, step one, I encourage my students to think about which country do you want to go study in, right? So is it UK? Is it Canada? Is it US? Is it Australia? Is it New Zealand? Is it parts of Europe? Is it Singapore? Is it Japan or any other country out there, right? You need to first narrow down on max 2 countries, right? If not even one. Ideally, it should be 1 country that you narrow it down to, but if not 1, then max 2, right? It should not be more than that. So first narrow it down to the country that you want to go to and what are your reasons for that. Now, how do you do that? You should watch a lot of other videos that I've made on Leverage TV. Go to leverageedu.com, log into Leverage TV, and you'll find a lot of our old videos out there comparing different countries and what are the benefits of one country over the other. So if you are looking at immigration, you want to settle down there in the long term, or you're looking at the best rated universities, or you're looking at some courses that are not available in specific geographies, those are the 3 dimensions you can think on and decide which country do you want to be in, right? So watch those videos and you'll be able to narrow it down a lot better on which country do you want to go study abroad in, right? So step 1, do not make the mistake of applying to universities first across multiple countries and then say, you know what, I'm going to figure it out later, but let me collect offers. I wouldn't recommend that. First, if you have time, first, please narrow down the country that you want to go in, right? So research and the research segment, first thing is defining the country, right? The second thing that you need to do is in that country, what is the right university and course you should be looking at, right? So think of it from the perspective of, say, it depends on your profile, right? Are you a student who's, say, looking at a top ranked university, right? Who's someone who scored, say, above 90%, 85, 90, 90% plus marks and looking to go to, say, the top 5 or 10 ranked universities in any country, right? In the UK, Canada, US, Australia, wherever, right? You're looking at the top 5 universities out there. You need to do a lot of research and you might have to pick a lot of universities because when you look at top rated universities, there are a lot of elements that go into it, right? So there's no guaranteed admissions in these universities. You need to apply to these universities. You need to have a very strong essay, strong story, strong GMAT or GRE scores and things like that. to be eventually able to get an admission, right? So if you're going to a top ranked university is your aspiration, then you should apply to multiple universities, like 5-6 universities in that country to hedge your risks. You should divide them into dream, reach, and safe categories and go ahead, right? So you're looking for a slightly bottom ranked, slightly lower ranked university, not the top 5, but say between 5 and top 20, 25 ranked universities. Then it's actually very simple, right? If you're applying and you have certain criteria that you're meeting with respect to your marks that you've scored, you will most likely get an offer, right? So even before applying to 5-6 universities, you don't need to apply to 5-6 universities. Then I would say focus your efforts further and say, of those 5-6 universities, where do you want to go, right? Make the decision upfront than saying I'm going to apply to 6-10 universities and then I'm going to make up my mind. It is going to become really confusing for you, right? So what common mistakes students make is they apply to 6 universities. And what happens is one university will give an offer in 2 weeks, another will give in 2 months, another will take given like 1.5 months. So you've got one offer in 2 weeks and you keep waiting. What do I do? You know, I have to get an offer from the other university as well. I'll wait for that university's offer. But university one would have said, no, you have to block your seat in the next 2 to 3 weeks by paying a deposit. So pay like 2 lakh rupees of deposit. Now you will be in this fix to say, oh, what do I do now? Right? Like, do I wait for the other offer to come or do I block my seat in the first university? So I see so many students every year going through the same dilemma on, you know, whether should I pay a deposit of a university I have an offer in or should I wait for the other university to come? So I always advise my students, make the selection beforehand, right? Before even applying, you should know, this is my preference 1, this is my preference 2, this is my preference 3, that's it, 3 universities I'm applying. I will definitely get offers in preference 3 or 2 for sure, preference 1, I may or may not get offers and that's it. Don't apply to 6 or 10 universities, doesn't make sense, right? Unless you're applying to those top 5 universities where there is a, you know, 50-50 chance, even if you've got like 100% marks, you might still not make it for some or the other reason, right? So because they look at a holistic profile, they just don't look at a you know, marks, but they also look at, you know, your essays, your whether you've done some extracurricular activities and things like that, right? So and your scores of GMAT, GRE, etc. So a lot of dimensions come into play, right? So, but if you're looking at lower than top 5 ranked universities out there, just take 3, divide them into dream, reach, and safe. Safe 100% you'll get through, reach 90% you'll get through, dream like 80% you'll get through. Just apply to those 3. That is good enough, right? So that will be my second advice to folks. Do not make the mistake of applying to 6 universities, 10 universities. It will only make your life a lot more difficult later. So make sure if you have the time to research, make up your mind, look at videos of universities, campus tours, speak to like buddies across in these universities. Just go to their website, you'll be able to speak to buddies on those universities, get a hang of what kind of students are there, where do you get a better vibe, which suits your particular you know, requirement, which university suits your particular requirements in terms of you know, the kind of things that you want to do. And you know, few people might relate to city universities, few people might relate to say campus universities outside, away from the city, you know, and things like that. So make up your mind and then decide on 3 universities and apply there, right? So that will be the second advice. Avoid that mistake. Third, identify the course that you want to apply to, right? So I think the common Indian mindset is has been traditionally around applying to only universities like you know, sorry, only courses like engineering, data analytics, you know, medicine, right? But there are too many other courses out there now which are very, very upbeat, very different, and are catering to the careers of tomorrow, not the careers of the past, right? And hence, I also ask my students to, you know, do some bit of research on what is the course that they really want to do, what is it that they really feel passionate about, right? And I recommend my students to take some psychometric tests if they can beforehand, right? Simple psychometric tests do not cost a lot, somewhere around 1,000-2,000 rupees. They give you a good idea about your profile, right? They give you idea on dimensions of, are you more analytical in nature? What about, you know, are you more sort of, you know, bent towards the artistic side of things? How do you look at big picture versus say, are you a more detail oriented person? And you get proper recommendations around, you know, given the kind of profile you are, given the kind of, you know, persona that you have, this is the kind of career you'll be best suited for. And hence, for that career, you should be doing these courses, right? That is a more scientific way of approaching, saying, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'll do well, this kind of careers I'll do well in, and hence these are the kind of courses I should be doing, right? That is where I'll be passionate about, right? So identify the course that you want to apply upfront, then see which of those courses are available in which universities in the country that you've decided, right? So you feel like I am very, very passionate about doing a course in film. Or many people might say, I want to do a course in culinary arts, right? I want to become a really good chef. Like that's something that you want to do, right? Then you say, Acha, what are the kind of courses out there? In culinary arts are the best courses that suit my profile. Say you decided I want to go to Europe or UK or Canada. You basically say, okay, what are the kind of courses available in this specific universities in UK, right? And then you only apply to those universities, right? That is the more scientific way of doing it. I see common mistakes people make is they just apply to a regular management course out there. Approximately 50% of the students looking to go study abroad apply, 45 to 50% apply for management courses because that's the easiest answer. That's to say, if I don't know what I want to do, I'll just do a management course. So I encourage students to go think harder, think deeper, and say, is there any other course that really talks to your, soul that you feel passionate about? And then apply for that specific course. Try and do some psychometric tests available in the market. Leverage Edu also offers a psychometric test. Doesn't cost much. Try and do those psychometric tests. It will give you a little bit more sort of insight into who you genuinely as a person are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you really like to do? And then can add some more insight on what kind of courses you should be doing, right? So yeah, that would be my first advice. For students, do your research. Do not make the mistake of not doing your research. Do your research upfront before preparing to study abroad and applying for university. Do your research and say, you know what, I want to go and study in the UK. I want to do a course in, say, I have figured out I want to do a course in data security or data science, right? And now based on my profile, these are the 3 universities or 4 universities I want to apply to. That's how you should approach it, right? Don't follow the approach of saying, okay, I find the first university, let me just apply there. Second university, apply there also. Apply to 10 universities, I'll collect all offers and then I'll go. Do not make that mistake. It is only going to make your life really, really difficult once you start getting offers and then you have to like time different things at different times, right? So try and avoid that situation. So yeah, that's the first advice. Second, very interestingly, over 30% of the students who apply through Leverage Edu do not think about budget, do not think about constraints that they might have in paying for studying abroad. So a lot of these students apply to multiple universities and then they think about, well, can I really afford 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs in tuition fee, whether I can really afford 15 lakhs in tuition fee, right? So you need to really think about what is your budget upfront, right? Many students don't even talk to their parents or sponsors like who are going to be paying for that education. Students can pay for their own education as well, and those students really go ahead and think about a lot. But many students do not probably think about what is their budget that they really want to go ahead with. What is the ROI that they are really targeting, right? So when you think about these kind of things, right, what that means is this becomes a selection criteria for your university, right? So if you're saying, you know what, I don't think I can spend more than 20 lakhs in total for a 1-year master's in the UK, right? If that is what you're thinking about, you need to then build it and factor it into your selection criteria and say, okay, what are the universities I can apply to that fit in my budget, right? So that is a decision criteria for you. Ideally, then I would not look at universities that are, say, have a tuition fee of 35,000 pounds, like 35 lakhs, 40 lakhs, etc., because they're out of my budget. As simple as that, right? Only exception to that rule is if you feel you have a good profile and you want to apply for scholarships. Or second exception to that rule is that you can get a loan, right? That is when you can still consider going to a university that is outside your budget, right? Now, again, you can plan for it beforehand, right? So for example, students make the common mistake of thinking, I will get a loan, right? And hence, let me just apply and I'll later figure out whether I get a loan or not, right? And by the time they get an offer, it's already like, say, about a couple of months from the joining date, and then they start figuring out the loan formalities, and then they land up in the point wherein they say, I'm not getting a loan, right? So all the effort they've put in over the last 4-5 months to decide universities, get offers, is all gone to waste because they did not plan beforehand and say whether I can even get a loan or not, right? And so they're not left with enough time to be able to arrange for finances. So how do you go around it, right? So if you feel like you will need a loan to study abroad, you can upfront find out whether you can get a loan or not. You don't need to have an offer at hand, right? All banks generally ask for, or financial institutions generally ask for, are things like whether you would be offering a collateral. What I mean by collateral is whether you would be, say, providing some form of security to the bank or the financial institution to get the loan from the bank, right? So the collateral or security could be something like a house, some form of property, FDs, fixed deposits, etc., that you can leverage to be able to get a loan from the bank, right? In other scenarios, you may not be able to get a loan, right? So the bank assesses your loan based on whether you have a collateral, whether you have a co-signer, and what is the CIBIL score of your co-signer or yourself if you are going to be directly applying for the loan, right? Ideally, generally, in most scenarios for students, the loan has to be loan is only given if you have a co-signer with you, right? So if you do not have collateral, if you do not have co-signer, and if you do have a co-signer, but the CIBIL score of the co-signer is say less than 600, ideally it's very difficult to get a loan. Generally, banks or financial institutions do not give you a loan, right? So ideally, what I would say is if you are considering getting a loan, and let's say you come to, for example, Leverage Edu and say, you know what, I want to apply to universities abroad, I want to study abroad, but my budget is not there, but I would like to consider options for an education loan. So Leverage Edu, for example, with their Leverage Finance team will be able to tell you upfront and say, you know what, you will be able to go ahead and get a loan, hence go ahead with your university application, right? Versus saying, you know what, I'll apply, I'll get an offer, then I will approach banks. That'll be too late, right? If say Leverage Finance at this point of time tells you that, you know what, getting a loan will not be possible with the current documents that you've given us, at that point of time, you can then still explore other options, right? So that is a common mistake that students make. They leave it to the last 2 months to figure out financing. Think financing upfront, right? And say, what is my budget? Can I get an education loan to further supplement my budget or not, right? Second way to supplement your budget is through scholarships, right? Now, scholarships, again, various kinds of scholarships are there. One kind of scholarship is, of course, offered by the university based on merit, right? So now I'll tell you a very neat trick, right? Say, if, for example, you're a student with a profile that is good enough to go to a top 5 ranked university. Now, if you go to a rank 10 university and say, I want to apply, and then rank 10 university, you will be in the top 5 percentile of applicants, right? And that is where you will get a very high scholarship, right? So if you basically choose a slightly lower ranked university than what your profile can fit you in, you are likely to get a scholarship from the university. However, it is generally easy to get a scholarship if you apply well in advance, at least 6 months in advance, 5 to 6 months in advance. If you're applying, say 2-3 months before the intake, then scholarships are very, very difficult, right? Very few universities offer those scholarships, right? So that is university scholarships. Similarly, there are also in India, every state offers scholarships, right? And these scholarships are offered to a certain list of universities listed by these states in India, and they offer scholarships as high as 50%, right? The only catch is that you need to apply very, very early. So you need to apply 3 to 4 months before you apply to the university, right? And before applying to the university, if you applied, you get a scholarship, then the scholarship is valid for 1 year. Then you know, I have already got a scholarship. Now I can use the scholarship to apply to this university and go to that university despite having any budget constraints that you might have, right? So that's the other form of scholarship, right? But again, recapping, big picture, you do your research, you identify country, you identify which university, you identify course, and also think about the budget that you have. What is the budget you have? Talk to your parents, talk to any other sponsors that you might have, relatives, siblings, friends, whoever, right? Whoever you feel like will be sponsoring a part of your education plus your own savings. Figure out what is the budget you have. Also figure out whether you can get a loan or not, right? Start speaking to financial institutions like Leverage Finance and start getting an idea of whether you are eligible for a loan. If not, what else can you get to be eligible for a loan, right? And that will help you make a decision on which universities are fitting in your budget, right? So that is the other mistake I would advise all my students to not make. That is, think about finances very later. Think about finances upfront. That is the advice, right? All right, going to the next thing, right? It is about test prep courses, right? So what students think or do not really think about is that they might have to give IELTS or PT, like English language test, or they would need to give GMAT, GRE, right? So two kinds of mistakes happen here, right? There is one category of students who feel like I need to give my IELTS, or if you're applying to top ranked universities, GMAT or GRE, and before that I cannot apply, right? So that is one common mistake that people make. So they keep waiting to give their GMAT, their IELTS, and they don't make an application. And what happens is they keep losing time, and universities by then are already full, right? They don't have any further, any further seats left by the time you give your IELTS or PT or TOEFL or GMAT, GRE, right? So that is one mistake that students make. For these students, I would say, if you've identified the university and the course, just apply. You will get a conditional offer. The condition will be that you have to give your IELTS and clear and get bare minimum this much marks. But at least you got a conditional offer, you've locked a seat, right? The other category of students who make the mistake is they feel like, let me try my luck, right? The other category of students think like, let me apply. What if I get a waiver? What if I don't have to give IELTS? Or they feel like, let an offer come. If an offer comes, only then I will start preparing and give my IELTS or GMAT or GRE, right? Once I get a conditional offer, only then I will start preparing for it. That is the other spectrum of students. So a lot of students who have to now go to September 21, they have got conditional offers, are now sitting in end of July and thinking about, oh, I need to give my IELTS. But it's so little time. They can max give one attempt at it. They don't have enough time to even give a second attempt before and getting that score and making that conditional offer to an unconditional offer. Right? So to those students, I say, if you had applied in March, why were you waiting for all this while to get a conditional offer? You knew you would need to give IELTS. Go ahead and prep for it and give it, right? While the university is thinking about giving you a conditional offer, you should be thinking about prepping for your IELTS and giving that exam, right? Don't think about saying, oh, what if I get a waiver, right? Especially where it's crystal clear, right? For example, for Canada, if you're applying to Canada, you need to give IELTS. That is literally a visa requirement, right? When you go to get your visa, you need to submit an IELTS score. With a bare minimum score. So give IELTS, right? Do not wait. And also other universities, say in the UK, you can get an IELTS waiver, but my recommendation to students is give IELTS nevertheless, right? Because it opens up the number of universities you can target. Because the universities that give you IELTS waiver in UK are also limited, right? So hence, if you can give IELTS, all your options are open. You can go to any university that you want, right? So you don't have to choose between those 5-10 universities. You can choose between like 100 universities and say, you know what, this is the university I'm best suited for, and I'm going to go here, right? So your options open up. So yeah, that would be my advice around the mistake. So mistake people make is either they do not apply to universities because they're waiting to give IELTS, or they do not give IELTS till the time they get a conditional offer from the university. Both need to happen simultaneously. Apply to the universities that you're interested in so that they can give you a conditional offer. In parallel, prep for IELTS also and keep giving IELTS so that if you have not cleared it in the first attempt, you can give another second attempt, right? By the time your conditional offer comes, you also are almost ready or have your IELTS ready, and you can just fulfill that condition and make that conditional offer into an unconditional offer, right? So that is my advice with regards to preparing for test prep courses, right? What else? So the other mistake that people make is, I have 3 more to go. So this is the third last, right? So the third last mistake that people make is, they don't think about what is their profile. So they don't think about writing a personalized essay, right? For any particular university or course, right? What you think about is, a consultant will help me write it, or they will write it for me. I think your college application has a lot of, you have a big edge if you write a very nice personalized essay for yourself. Your consultant, say for example at Leverage Edu, would do a great job of saying that, taking your story and say being able to edit it in a way that it looks great, right? But many students make the mistake of thinking that, you know what, my consultant will write a story for me, right? Your consultant does not know you better. Your counselor does not know you better than you yourself, right? So hence I encourage my students to think about the fact that, why do you want to do this course? Goes back to the first point that I make, research. If you've done your research and said, this country, this particular university and this course, because I am passionate about it, if you write that in your personalized essay, it has so much more of an impact on the person reading your essay and giving you an offer at the university's end, right? That university is like, you know what, I want this student because this student is well researched. Versus if a consultant writes that essay for you, it is going to be a very generic essay, right? It will not give you a differentiation or an edge over any of the other players. I'm not saying that you will not get through. You might still get through. You will likely get through. But if you personalize your essay, you will get a definite edge over all the other applicants to that particular university you're competing with, right? Second last mistake that people make. Students do not think about what kind of documentation that they need to apply for a university abroad, right? So step one for you is, say, while you are researching for your universities, courses, etc., country, right? You need to know what kind of documents you need. So create your own, what do you say, a sort of a docket for yourself, right? And in that docket, you should have all these things, right? What were your class 10th mark sheets, passing certificate, class 12th mark sheet, passing certificate. If you have given undergraduate, then what was your undergraduate degree, your overall transcript, right? Your letter of recommendation, right? Who will be, so you should already have thought about, okay, these are the two people who will need to give me recommendation. It could be professors in your UG degree. It could be someone you're already working with in your job right now. Right? So who are the two people who will be giving you letters of recommendation, right? What happens is many students come, they do all the research, and then they come to us and say, okay, great. You know what? I want to apply to these universities. Let's go ahead, get an offer. And then we say, okay, give us these documents. And these students go like, you know what? I don't have my college degree yet. I have to go reach out to my college. And then it becomes like a good, easy 4 weeks delay, right? And in that 4 weeks, that college might just close their seats, right? And it has cost you that much time, right? You might have, if you had all the documents at that point of time, in the next 2-3 weeks, you would have had an offer. But now for the next 4 weeks, you would be going and hunting your college and saying, can you please give me my degree? I graduated 1 year ago. I graduated 2 years ago. Can you please give me my degree? Right? That's the kind of conversations that students have with their universities, and hence get delayed in applying to universities, right? Similarly, letter of recommendations. If you can, just get those letters of recommendation right away from those recommenders, right? All these letter of recommendation need to be as simple as, say, if you're getting it from a senior of yours in the company you're working at, just ask them for a letter of recommendation or company letterhead, right? Similarly, if the letter of recommendation is coming from a professor at a university, just get it from the professor on a university letterhead. If you feel like, you know what, that is too much, bare minimum, then you should get their consent, right? At least have that 5-minute conversation with your senior at your company or your professor at your university and say, you know what, I'm applying to universities abroad. I will be giving your contact details to universities. They will reach out to you and you will have to write them a recommendation. So to apply to universities, you need to at least do either of the two things. You need to upload these letters of recommendation in the letterhead, right? Or you need to give details, like, and these details can be like Gmail address or Outlook address. It has to be an address which is an official address. So if you have, say, if you're working at any company, right? Say you are working at Deloitte, then the address of recommender should be like XYZ person's name at Deloitte.com, right? Can't be gmail.com address. So have that conversation with your recommenders and ensure that, you've told them and you tell them that, you know what, I'm going to give you your email address and you're going to get an email and you'll have to write me a recommendation. At least have that conversation up front, right? So those are the places where I find students' documentation is not ready. Many cases, students come out and say, you know what, I can't find my class 12 passing certificate. You know what, I don't have my university transcript. Or, you know what, my many students in their class 12 are applying and at that point of time, they need a predicted score mark sheet, right? They've not given their class 12 boards yet, but they can get a predicted score. So that predicted score mark sheet should be available with them, right? So think about all these things beforehand. If you're applying, just start arranging for all these things beforehand. That too you definitely need, right? Irrespective of whichever college, whichever country, whichever course you decide, you will definitely need all your documents. Don't let that become a bottleneck to your making your applications. When you're ready, when you've done all your research, all of this should be ready so that you can make your application within the same day. Okay. So, all right. Last mistake that I would like to cover in today's session is around students making a mistake of not engaging with the right consultancy at the right time, right? What I mean by that is, if you're looking to go study abroad, if you want to explore scholarships, I encourage students to apply at least 2 quarters. That is about 6 months, 5 to 6 months prior to the intake, right? So if the class starts in, say, September 2022, I encourage my students to at least apply by March, April, right? That is when you can still get scholarships. If you apply even earlier, say January, you'll be having a much higher chance of getting a scholarship than, say, if you're applying in March, April. And even further, like if you apply in June, July, your chances of scholarships even further go down. There are universities for the September 21 intake that are still accepting applications and are still giving offers if you apply till July 31st, for example. But that is far lesser than the number of universities that were doing this when you were, if you would have applied in January for the September 21 intake, right? So you need to engage with the right consultancy who can guide you about these things and much well in time, right? Second is very important to engage with a trusted consulting platform like Leverage Edu, for example, right? Why I say that is because if you look around you, right, you step out of your home and go to any market, you will find a lot of these small companies saying study abroad, right? And these small shops out there. The problem is these universities, these players do not have direct university tie-ups. And when you do not have direct university tie-ups, they end up applying through multiple other players, right? So it's literally like, say, if you book your holiday packages abroad, you do realize that you call a company or you call a travel agent and that person literally is talking to some other agency out there, right? It's very similar to that. And you don't want to do that. You want to go to a trusted player out there that has direct partnerships with universities, who can speak directly with universities on your behalf for your application and are able to debottleneck anything, are able to, communicate with the university in case any documentation is required, anything that is required from the student end, or say student wants to know anything from the university, the consultancy can make that happen for you, right? So go to a trusted platform, a good brand like Leverage Edu that has those direct university partnerships. So for example, when you ever engage with a consultancy, you should ask that question, that do you have direct university partnerships with these universities? Do you represent these universities in India, right? That is exactly the question you need to ask. And that is what you should do. Go to trusted university admission platforms like Leverage Edu, right? Lastly, what happens is students also tend to sometimes get really, really anxious while waiting for offers, right? They tend to lose their patience. So they go like, what is happening? This university is taking, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I've still not got my offers. Generally, typically, there are really good universities that give offers in 2 days, in 1 week, 2 weeks. And there are some universities that are flooded with applications as well and take like 5, 6 weeks, 8 weeks as well, right? It has got nothing to do with the fact that your application is weak, right? That is not why that happens. Why it happens is every university operates very differently. It's literally like some universities have, say, an admissions team of 40 people, whereas another university has an admission team of 10 people, right? And hence the 40-member team will be churning out applications and giving it offers in like 1 week. And another university might take like 4 weeks or 6 weeks because there are so many applications and fewer people looking at those applications, right? And hence they take 6 weeks. It's just that, right? There is nothing about saying, maybe I'm not, my application is sort of delayed because I'm not eligible, right? They put me on a wait list. That happens with really top ranked universities. Anything beyond a top 5 university will be very, very transparent with you and say, our turnaround time for giving an offer is 6 weeks. So what I find many a times is students tend to lose the patience, right? They feel like, something is wrong, and this university is not going to give me an offer, and they become very anxious and they make all sorts of wrong decisions, right? So I would say hold your horses, be very, very patient, especially universities abroad. They have a very, very set process of how they do things. And if they say, I'm going to take 6 weeks, they will take 6 weeks. That's just how it will function, right? And there are universities that will give offers in 2 days, and they will give offers in 2 days, right? It's just a function of how universities operate, right? It has got nothing to do with ranking of universities. It has got nothing to do with your profile per se. It is all about how universities' operations are being managed in the back end, right? So that's all from my end for today in terms of what kind of mistakes students make and how to avoid those mistakes. If I were to do a quick 2-minute recap, what all I covered? Step 1, I said, is ensure you do your research upfront. Define the country, identify the 1 country, max 2 countries that you want to apply to. In that country, identify which university would you like to go ahead with that fit your profile. Give some psychometric tests if required, but really identify what is the course you want to do. Don't just blindly go for a management course because that is what everyone is doing. Things have changed. Look at careers of tomorrow. Think about what you are really right fit for, and accordingly figure out what career you want to be in. And based on that career, figure out which courses will be apt for that career, and accordingly select a course and a university. right? So step one, research. Step two, I said, ensure you have an idea of your budget, right? Before selecting the university and course. So if you feel like you're going to be budget constrained, if you feel like your parents are going to be paying for a larger part of your education, have that conversation on day zero. Don't have that conversation once you've received your offers. Have that conversation today. Talk to your sponsors, be it siblings, be it friends, or if your parents are going to be involved, talk to your parents and tell them, you know what, I'm looking to go study abroad. This is what it's going to cost. How much do you think you can contribute? Have that honest conversation up front, right? Similarly, on the budget, ensure that if you would be needing an education loan, or start talking to banks. Like for example, reach out to Leverage Edu, and we will connect you with Leverage Finance, right? Reach out to Leverage Finance or Co, and you will be able to get an upfront answer on whether you'll be able to get a loan or not, and that will make your decision so much easier on which universities you can go ahead with and which not, because every university's budget, like tuition fee, would be very, very different, right? So think about your budget upfront. Then I talked about scholarships. Apply as early as possible to be able to eligible for scholarships. I also spoke about state scholarships offered in multiple states in India, for which you need to really apply 3 to 4 months prior to applying to the university. And those scholarships offered by state universities go as high as 50, 75% of the entire tuition fee as well for those scholarships. And those scholarships are valid for 1 year from being offered, right? So, but you have to apply almost a year before the intake, right? Then the next thing I spoke about was ensuring you do not make the mistake of either not preparing for IELTS at all, saying, I will get an offer. If I get a conditional offer, then I will prepare for IELTS. And similarly, do not make the mistake on the other end of the spectrum, wherein you say, I will first give IELTS, only if I get a score, then I will apply to the university. Both should happen simultaneously. Apply to universities, get conditional offers. In parallel, while university is assessing your application, you also prepare for IELTS and give IELTS, right? That way, you do both things in parallel and you are able to get through to the university much faster, right? Lastly, I spoke about, ensuring that the SOPs or statement of purpose or the essays that you write are personalized, right? Go back to the research element and say, why did I select a particular course in a university? And when you really write that from the bottom of your heart, you definitely get an edge over the other applicants. Lastly, I talked about the fact that step 0 should be documentation. Ensure that you have got all your documentation. Create your own document today. So if you're looking to go study abroad, irrespective of whatever stage of the application you are in, right? You've already applied, you're thinking of applying, you don't know which country, wherever you apply, you will need to ensure you have your class 10th mark sheet and certificate. You will need to ensure you have your class 12th mark sheet and certificate. If you've done your undergraduate, ensure you have undergraduate mark sheet, undergraduate transcript, their degree. If you're in your final year, ensure you have till your penultimate semester, right? Semester 7 or till semester 5, all mark sheets ready. Those will be required. If you're in your class 12th right now, ensure your predicted mark sheets are ready. Think about who are going to be your recommenders. Everybody needs at least 2 recommenders. So think about who your recommenders are going to be. Speak to them right away and say, you know what, I would need recommendations from you. And can I give your credentials so that you receive an email to be able to give those recommendations to the universities? If possible, get those recommendations, letters of recommendations from your recommenders right away, right? Those will be needed for any application anywhere. And lastly, the last thing that I spoke about was engage with the right consultancy at the right time. So engage with a consultancy like Leverage Edu, wherein you get direct university partnerships. That Leverage Edu, for example, can speak to universities directly on your behalf and help you get an offer, debottleneck anything, and expedite a lot of things directly by communicating with the university. Do not go with a non-trusted brand wherein someone is not speaking with the university, but actually speaking with another company out there or 2-3 other companies out there who are then speaking to the university. So yeah, that's all. I hope the recap was good. Lovely chatting with you all. And thanks so much for joining in. Look forward to seeing you on another session tomorrow at Leverage Live. We have a session conducted every day at 6 p.m. So keep tuning into Leverage TV every day at 6 p.m. You can also access this recording of this session or all of the other previous recordings at leverageedu.com. Click on Leverage TV and all the recent recordings are available for you to watch. It was great speaking with you all. This is Digvijay Gagneja here, Chief Operating Officer at Leverage Edu. See you tomorrow.